You're live.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the April 6th NSA Ad Hoc Committee meeting. It's myself and our Inspector General for the moment. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go over the OPD template, the proposed template. All right. So this is kind of what it's become. And everyone, I've received, positive feedback from it so far. You can see some comments that Director Lawson has made as well, some minor comments. Um, And basically, what it did here was, as we discussed before, the current template is 15 sections. And I really tried to just narrow it down to be more specific to the sections that we typically discuss um, that are also defined under the city charter that kind of our core areas. So in terms of the first section, I change it from constitutional policing because basically all these sections talk about, or they have some sort of aspect of constitutional policing. So this just highlights the areas that are under microscope, or areas that, per your input, areas that you may be auditing or reviewing at the time. So it's called evaluation of best practices. You have a reference there to show how that's under our purview. And it's just broken down in a simple table with the three tasks that are currently under the microscope. Fortunately, if you've had a chance to read the latest monitor report, they currently are in compliance with task 5. They're in compliance with maybe 2 of the 5 subtasks for 45. And task 2, they are hoping to be in compliance by the CMC date on May 27th. So we'll see what happens with that. They're working on a bunch of different corrective actions to get into compliance with task 45. I don't have them all listed here, but DC Osmos was very helpful. And welcome, Director Lawson, in providing the different things that they're working on in terms of how they plan on getting that into full compliance. But we'll see what happens. Let me block this so that's what that section, or the first part of that section, is. We're just going over the template, Tony, that you've seen. Is it big enough? Do I need to enlarge it? Make it a little bigger?
Would
It's
help
big
if you
enough for
could.
me.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a little better, huh?
That is better.
All right. And then the second part of that section, the best practices that you're currently, or the next ones that you plan on evaluating, I believe, are these ones that are all within the internal affairs section of the NSA, with the exception of task 34. So I kept those in there because I know that you said that you wanted um, to see them present to us what was being discussed. And I think that's a good idea. I don't see why not. I think it's good for us to communicate like that as well. And then maybe you can go over a little bit more detail when you do your monthly presentation to us, or something to that effect, right?
Yes.
Um, so that's what that is. And then the third part of the section, internal collaboration. These are also things that were already pre-existing on the current template, but just a couple of new things, like the NSA core group, and just discussing what was discussed. Any findings with the IMT visit, or within the core group, or from the CMC, and feedback where they're at, when is the next time they're going to meet, and when is the last time that they met, so we can kind of see exactly where we're at in terms of time frame. And then I believe either Director Lawson or Chair put this, updated this from Commission and OPD collaboration for upcoming opportunities for collaboration, because that's a good way to define it as well. Because we're probably not going to be able to do all of these things in between every meeting, and that's not the intention. The intention is just like it is right now, is to have things on here that can be discussed, not necessarily are going to be discussed at every meeting or done. So the opportunities listed here, and I dug into the NSA on this one, uh, academy or in-service training, and that's referencing task 43. Attend a field training function, that's referencing task 42, these specific subtasks. Attend a firearm discharge review board, that's referencing task 30. I'm not sure if commissioners can attend that, or if just yourself as an IG can attend something like that. But I wanted to put it on here for discussion to see what folks thought. Because when I was reviewing the NSA, I saw that, and I was reviewing all the subtasks. I thought that these were potential opportunities for us to learn more about these specific NSA tasks. And if you go back and look at all of the different uh, quarterly monitor statements that have been given, um, basically, I would say about maybe half of the NSA tasks are discussed, since those were produced since they got the compliance director role. And this specifically is one of them about field training and attending in-service training, things like that. Those things are discussed, as well as this task 30. And these things haven't been discussed for a long time. So this isn't us necessarily going out and doing an audit. You're the one who does the audits. This is us just going out and discussing things that are squarely under our purview. Attendance at a use of force review board. This is specifically listed in the municipal code as something that a commissioner can attend. I've heard previous chiefs speak positively about us doing something like this. So these are the opportunities that are basically listed for Section 1. Any questions so far?
The only question I have, we have attendance of use of force review board. Uh, the OIG, my office, me specifically, starting to attend Scully hearings. I don't know if you want to add that or just keep that separate.
I did. I put it in the discipline section.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a use of force review boards. I guess that could be either just a basic force review board, which I believe is talking about a class 2 situation, or executive force review board, which is talking about class 1 situation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what that is. But it doesn't differentiate within the code which one we can attend. It just says use of force review board. So, all right, the second section, community policing. And these are the references to the right of it. The first area within that, community building. These are the tasks that I referenced. And when I was on the community policing ad hoc committee, when I was on the SSOC, and for a little bit while I was on the commission, we specifically, and we were talking about approving the community policing policy. We specifically discussed these tasks with the OPD officers that were there. So I know that, they should be ready to discuss these things when the time comes, specifically for a police commission meeting. So that was some of my thoughts there, and, it's squarely under our purview. So community building with different groups, where I got these types of groups, this is also discussed in under our duties within the municipal code about when we go out and do the meetings in the community to collaborate with these specific types of groups, advocacy groups, youth, faith-based groups. So that's why those are listed here. And then OPC and OPD collaboration. And then this is just giving some examples. I believe Chair added the upcoming academies, attending that. Crime Stop meetings is referencing task 47, again, that we discussed within the community policing ad hoc. Interfacing with the academy, lineup or ride along attended, we do that already. And interfacing with the academy is also talking about task 42 or 43 specifically. So we'll let the commissioners who were able to do things like this decide what they want to do, or if they want to change this out with something else. After talking it over with the department, they can do that too. So that's the thinking there. And then the same thing in the other columns, topics covered, when and where you went. Then the next section, use of force reporting procedures. You can see the areas referenced. I also tried to line this up with our strategic plan so we can start to execute some of that. And that was in line with a lot of the things here, at least with a lot of the NSA tasks. So, and most of these things are already discussed, or a lot of them are already discussed within the current template. And I'll point out where after we go over this. So I broke it down into different types of force categories: officer involved shooting, which OPD has done very good at reducing that in the past couple of years. Um, Seen supervisor requests for force, and this isn't talking about, you know, asking OPD to report out on everything. It's like maybe just report out on what's reasonable, like a sample size, a sample set of these different categories. K4 investigations, and then we got vehicle stops, field investigations, and detentions, which addresses racial profiling. So, and then the columns discuss any police practices or concern areas out of these different four categories, and then what corrective actions may have been taken. So I think this is a good way to form this discussion, and maybe we'll update it as it goes. Um, and then we have the next. Any other questions so far on those last two sections?
I just have a clarification. K4 investigations. I'm not familiar with that.
It's use of force investigation. That's just the nomenclature they use for the use of force policy.
Okay.
I think I was trying to save some space when I was typing here. That's all that is. All right, mental health and wellness. This is our mental health and wellness section. And as it says in the charter, we're to provide recommendations regarding education and training, as well as other mental and emotional health issues. And myself and Vice Chair Booker are a part of that ad hoc committee. So we'll probably be coming back to the commission with some recommendations that'll ultimately go forward to the department, and we'll ask for updates on that. And they already provide some updates on this in terms of staffing. Another thing that we're talking about or that we're doing in that ad hoc is developing a strategic plan, and we have a couple of 2 to 3 policies that OPD is recommending be updated, and I think one created. So we're going to work on that as well. We'll probably work that information into here and show how it is under our purview. Then the next section is the policy section, and this is not complete with every policy that we've reviewed. I just started to put some down. We need to put more down. We can do that as we move along. There's also a couple more here. These are just ones that like I knew off the top of my head because I served on these ad hoc committees, but there are more. And I have 3 columns of space in order to add more when we're ready to do that. And then we have the next table discusses next policies to be reviewed. These are things like on the table. We want to follow up with where we're at on the pursuit policy, the immigration policy, racial profiling policy. These are things that were input from the chair. And we can discuss other things. We can discuss among ourselves in the commission what we want to add here and why. Then the next section is the budget. And these are some areas that we had already been discussing that we just added and put it in this table and then put it in these different columns to help form the discussion. I think this is pretty straightforward. And then let's see. Yeah, then the last section is discipline. And thank you, Director Lawson, for really helping flesh this out. You did the lion's share of this section. I only added a couple of things, and I think Ricardo added a couple of things. And it goes over in detail about cases, complaints, Skelly data, and I think it references, where's IG? Yeah, Skelly cases heard, including OIG collaboration right there.
Okay.
So, and then they can add the applicable statistics and dates or time frames for all these different topics in the other columns. Yeah, and it just goes over all this stuff in detail. And you can, take a look at this after the meeting and look at it a little bit more up close and see if we need to add or take anything out. And then just let us know if you have any additional input like that. But that's the template in a nutshell where we're at. I think we're pretty close to bringing this back to the commission to approve it, either at the last meeting this month or early May. But that may depend on Ricardo going and talking to OPD and seeing where they're at, if they're ready to transition from the current template to this one, and working with them on figuring out a date to do that. Any other questions about this? Is anyone else here? Oh, Shawani and Ricardo are here. Great. Okay. Any other questions or comments about the template? Okay. While you're thinking, and then I also have this.
Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button.
All good.
I
Go.
just, yeah, no, Commissioner Farmer, I just want to thank you, for pulling this all together and IG and Director Lawson, everybody that contributed to this. I think, we're getting closer and closer to getting really comprehensive report of what the community wants to hear, subjects and trends, things that we keep on hearing, right? Um, there are a few things that I would like us to think about as we're getting close to presenting this to the rest of the commission in some of these areas. Like, what are like some self-reflective questions that we could ask maybe along with this so that we could really guide OPD on, in regards to each of these areas, what are the things we want to hear from them, right? Like what I want to be able to provide some guidance from them. Because if you just look at the template, like just say, just as is right here, I don't want them to be like, well, let me see what you're looking at. Case elevated to OPC. Like, what do they want to know? What do you guys want to know from that? Right. So, being able to be as prescriptive as possible, whether it's quantitative or even just questions within the template that help give basic prompts to them. Right. So I don't know. Once I guess we're getting pretty close to this. I'm going to look at this document again and see if maybe I could just contribute a little bit to that in that regard. And then also looking at the old template to see where all these things either fit in or what we're eliminating. Because I think it's also going to be helpful for the commission to see the old template to see which things were actually taken out and where a lot of these things, because even though this is really comprehensive, a lot of this stuff actually already lived within the other template. It just was either being bypassed or they weren't talking about it or we weren't being as specific in certain areas, right? So it was really kind of just ramping up what we were already had. And so I think that will help with conversations I have with OPD and just for the public and for the other commission and other commissioners to also understand that it's not a whole new template that we're looking at. We're just, again, revising the last one, ramping it up with a little bit more meat and potatoes and a little more specifics on areas that we want to see, so on and so forth. So anyhow, I just kind of some random thoughts, but I did want to just thank you for your work on this as well. But it's looking good. I've liked so far everything I've heard so far.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And I think that's a perfect way. Thank you for saying that. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And I was also thinking of sharing this document with them. I'm just going to switch over real quick to show you. I know that I'm not sure if everyone has a chance to look at this. I know you looked at it, Chair, but this kind of shows like what was in the old template versus the new template, and is like a comparison of how close it is to the last one. So, like you said, this new one really just adds some more meat and potatoes to it, a little bit more specific, a little bit more NSA stuff, because it's the NSA Ad Hoc. That's like the hat that I have on. But there's not really, it doesn't like totally change it from a quantitative to qualitative type of readout or anything like that. It's largely the same, just a little bit more specific in reference to the conversations, like you said, that we've had, that we asked about these specific things. So,
and I would even add that like it'll help commissioners formulate their questions in each of these topic areas in terms of what we're actually looking for and trying to the information we're trying to pull out in each of these areas rather than just kind of quickly going over them. Can you do me a favor or just even to the whole group? Can you send us, I know I got access to this document we're looking at, but the other one that you just shared, that's the comparison doc. Can you send that one to me as well too? I'm really hesitant because I'm like, no, I don't want to overcommit, but I almost want to look at the last template and try to see if I could do an overlay of all the stuff that we're talking about into the old one just for aesthetics and just the way we're looking at it. so that we could get close to just saying, all right, this was the old template right here. These are all the things highlighted in whatever color that we've added or taken away, but they could actually see it instead of just comparing two docs side by side. They could actually see an overlay of the old template and all these new things ramped up into it. I think might be helpful.
Yeah, if
Because
you're
then,
up for it.
because yeah,
Yeah.
because I also have a feeling there's going to be people coming out saying, "Oh, you guys are starting to do a whole new template and all this new work." And I think if we nestle all the information that we just created in this in the other doc you were just sharing, um, and really just show how we've just enhanced the original template and refined some of the areas that were either duplicative or that we eliminated altogether. Um, we will actually be able to show that it's just a lot more thoughtful in how we're looking at these certain areas that were already there, and we eliminated things that we weren't even talking about or just didn't need to be discussed, that were getting glossed over anyway.
So why
Um,
don't are you suggesting we put that crosswalk that Omar has shared in the agenda? We might as well, when we post it to look at for the rest of the commission, we could post both of those things.
Yeah.
yes,
If you're able to
yeah,
do it, sure.
yeah, because I would even. I mean, I think when we're finally presenting the final draft of the template, it would be great to show it within the framework of the previous template already. Because I don't know. Like for me, it just even my own visuals. It's still easier for me. I like the way the last one was laid out. And I don't want OPD to freak out that they're doing a whole new template. It's just like, no, this is the same template. It's just that we've really been intentional in some of these areas to ask additional questions or requesting additional information. And it helps guide commissioners and how they're pulling out the information on all the areas that were kind of already existing there. And then it also showed the areas that we're eliminating to actually make the template more efficient and in essence, a little shorter than what it originally was.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
and
uh,
I did plan on going over the proposed template and the previous template, and maybe pulling out some of like the tables within the sections that OPD had in terms of like Skelly data or whatever the case may be. You know, people out
yeah.
on leave for whatever reason. Um,
It's just so much information, Commissioner, that I think it's hard for everybody to process at one time because there's so much. And if we look at the old template, essentially like a red line version of the old template that has all the new additions and all the stuff that we took out, then I think that's going to be easier for folks to process and see where the changes actually happened.
Yeah, I had started to do that a while ago and was lining and was crossing stuff out and stuff, but it was really hard to read. But yeah, just like for like a policy update, when you do that, like that, probably something like that, uh, either exactly how you're doing it, talking about doing it, or something similar to that, will probably need to be presented to them anyway. So to show
Got it.
exactly what's changed, right? So I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Just thinking about, I'm just looking at the calendar. So our next meeting is on the 23rd, and then we're not meeting as an ad hoc until the 20th, which is in 2 weeks. Um, so hmm, we would need to like um, just have that done sometime next week, before the end of next week, basically. Even though we're not going to meet, we would, need to do something like that and then have it ready for the ad hoc to look at. I would think like maybe a week from today. So let me see what else I got to see if there is like a red line item or document. But yeah, but I think this is helpful as well. This is kind of like a summary of the
Yeah.
different sections that were there before. And if they're going away, they're just simply crossed out. And then it shows that, like, uh, like the OPD budget section here is highlighted in purple. And then the new template, you can see that it carries over in purple. Policy was previously called constitutional policing policies, and now it's just called policy Wellness, gray means something new. I have like a little legend on here somewhere. Gray means like a totally new section, which is wellness and discipline. Use of force reporting and procedures is what it's called in the new template. And in the previous one, it was called, well, we got rid of the mediation and just called it misconduct and put the mediation information within the discipline section, I believe. Community collaboration carried over under community policing. So I think having what you're saying is definitely helpful. But this is a good little summary as well. So maybe we can include it all for different, different people and how they learn, I guess. So, all right. Any other feedback? Okay. So I think that's the only thing we need to work on is like a comprehensive before and after. And you're going to take that on, Chair, to see if you can do it or not. And let me know if you need assistance. I'll look and see what I have. I don't know.
Well, send me this doc right here that you're sharing, and then that way I could cross reference this as like the key as I'm populating everything, make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
Because I also think that if we're going to eliminate certain sections too, I also want to give the other commissioners an opportunity to kind of reflect and actually visually see the areas that we're going to be removing. I know you listed them out, but again, like I think it's going to be helpful for them to see it in the actual template and what we're taking out, for them to ultimately weigh in and give their opinion if they, if they have burning desires to keep certain sections over others,
Right.
And then we could just, look at that red line version of it. So what I could do is, I know Micah had sent me a blank version of the template that they send them every month. Every meeting. And I could just populate it with all of this information and track the changes so that they could see exactly what we added and what we're proposing to take out in the current form of the template that we have right now.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. Do we want to, is the goal is to agendize that draft by the next meeting?
Yes.
So then
you want to make it just like it. Do you need to talk to OPD about it first as well? Or, they're going to be there at the meeting. Maybe we can do it like right after their section or right before.
Yeah. No, I think we could put it in the agenda. Let me see. I'm just looking at the date. So we'll basically have to put it in the agenda like the Monday, the 20th to be in the agenda for the 23rd.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So like by the end of next week, I think we need to have it like ready to be agendized,
Do we want to? Okay. So then we could just share it over email and then people could weigh in on it. And again, when we agendize it on the 20th for the discussion on the 23rd, it'll be kind of like its final draft form, but we could still take input and revisions. And then at least OPD will be transparent to them, the conversations we're having. And then we could always and then from there, I could have a follow-up conversation with OPD. Like, all right, you heard the discussion. You've seen the proposed changes in the template. Like, are there any things that you absolutely feel like you have questions about or you feel like you can't report on? And then we could just negotiate from there, and then be able to present at the next meeting a final draft for vote. Would that be too many delays, too many times presenting?
Well, we have presented it twice to the commission so far. They've provided a little bit of input, not much. At the last meeting, they seemed to really be happy with it, with where we're at. I was reading over the minutes from that meeting. They were like, a lot of positive comments. So I don't think they're going to really have a lot of last minute by the ways. But I think the before and after comparison, like you're saying, is good. So we do our due diligence and stuff. And then, we can always make it an action item and then, approve it with any amendments that people have or that OPD has. And you can specifically ask OPD to stay there for that agenda item or have it be before their template readout, so to make sure that they're there. But if we decide that we need to table it to the May meeting, the first one in May, then I guess we can. But at least we made it an action item so we can vote on it if we're ready. I think we're ready. You know.
Well, I think if with all the input we've heard today, the group feels good about trying to putting all this information and compiling it into kind of a final template structured, right? Like and we're basically just talking about formatting at this point, right? What is it called? Then I would say the work of this ad hoc is now complete. We put that into the format, and then we present it to the commission, and then we shift our focus from this template to now starting to prepare for the CMC statement, and also the MOU recommendations. I think we still need to discuss here as well, right?
Yeah, right. So we're going to get to that right now. So I think that for the template, you're spot on. So I think that we can figure out what we can have ready for the ad hoc to review by next Monday. And then we can, decide then whether or not we want to vote on it at the next meeting or not. But I think that we will end up doing that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Shawana, do you have any input on this? Before you go, Micah, Shawana, do you have anything?
No. Sorry, I'm driving, so not at this time.
All right, that's fine. Director Lawson, anything to say?
Not this time, thanks.
Okay, and IG, I feel that you're good. We went over the whole thing together, so.
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay, Micah.
So if I'm understanding correctly from the conversation, we're going to wait until the 13th to know whether we're going to have the final template formatted draft for the 23rd. Is that correct? Are we going to do anything on 5/14? And I usually just jot down different things that we need to plan for to agenda. So I want to make sure that I'm putting this on my notes to talk to Chair about when we're planning the agenda so we don't forget.
Yeah, let's just plan on having it in the agenda. The ad hoc people will talk again on the 13th. And if we decide that it's basically, and we'll just discuss this informally over email or over the phone, whether or not we think that it'll be ready to be voted on or not. But let's plan on more than likely doing it. It's going to be on the agenda either as an informational item or an action item. And I think we'll decide whether it's an action item or not over the next week.
Okay, so I'll make note of 4/23, not 5/14. You got it.
Yeah. Oh, 5/14 is the first meeting in May. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's the first meeting in May. The last meeting in April is 4/23.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The first meeting in May, putting it out there, that would just be a contingency. I think that we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of now the next 2 weeks for us to be able to format stuff and have a nice product for everybody to look at on the 20th. Because I do want to get this off our plates because we have other things that we need to move on. And I don't want this just to be like an ongoing thing. That's just, that's just lingering, indefinitely. I want to just be able to complete these tasks and then move on to the next tasks of this group.
Okay, Chair, I made a note for the 23rd for us.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Something in the chat. Who's putting? Is this someone from us? I have to step away. Okay. All right. Let me transition here to the MOU stuff. I had started to write like a draft letter. I didn't get too far into it though. I'm hoping to have some sort of like draft letter that we can all weigh in on by early next week. And the input that I have so far, sorry, I'm trying to find it on my computer again. Here's one. I got some input from community members, okay? So I was going to put the stuff that they've given us in terms of input. Can you all see this? Hold on, let's make it a little smaller. I first want to review it and make sure that it's things within our purview, and that's what I was telling everyone. And then within the letter itself, the letter is addressed from the police commission to city attorney's office, to city council, and you all can, weigh in on who exactly it should be sent to or not, and we can edit it if needed. And basically, it's just going to be an overview of why we're doing this and what the recommendations are. So I've had some good some good discussions about recommendations with people from the public, some union people, and then what we've discussed, which is basically having the GPS on all their vehicles, vessels, aircraft, whatever the case may be. And then we also discussed doing some sort of recommendation for overtime. Now, has everyone had a chance to go over the MOU that you have a copy of? Crickets, huh? Okay. But basically, that document, you don't have to make recommendations based off of everything that's just or solely on the things that are only listed there. If it's something under our purview and is not already included in the MOU, then you can propose it. And as long as it's, I was looking at some of the things under, say, for in terms of overtime. The NSA specifically is broken down into areas for like supervision, for example. So a lot of the things that are in like recommendations for overtime that I think it was IFPTE, that white paper that they created some stuff for overtime that may fall under different areas of the NSA, and I had it broken down into which sections. I think it was, give me a minute, let me scroll down there. I had it broken down into specific tasks in the
To that point, real quick, while you look for that,
so
Commissioner.
wait, before I lose my train of thought on this.
Okay, go ahead.
I had it under those overtime specific things. I was seeing if they applied to the supervisory, span of control, and unity of command NSA tasks. So that's how I'm taking what people from the community are recommending and making sure that it's within an area under our purview. So I don't have all that laid out right now. I had started to write that letter. I'm not ready to present it to you all yet, but that's where I'm going with this, basically.
That sounds good. The only other thing I would add is I think also we don't need to look any further than the city's own auditors. And there have been, and I think the one thing that was fascinating about the white paper that the union pointed out is that there's been 2 different audits by 2 different auditors from the city. And that OPD has made very little progress on those recommendations. And so maybe looking at some of those things as it pertains to overtime and seeing, which things we could highlight, because again, it's not just us studying the MOU and then making our own recommendations. It's like, no, your own city auditor said that you need to follow these practices and adhere to some of these policies or revise or stand up policies in certain regards that you all have made very little progress in. And it's really just reiterating what the city's own auditors have already found and said, and I think that also helps safeguard us in terms of us, like, being perceived as we're like being our own analysts and meddling in their business. I mean, I think, as it comes to NSA, we have every right to do so, but there's also some real easy, low hanging fruit that our own city auditors have pointed out that OPD just needs to stick to. So I think maybe, cross-referencing what they've pointed out and those things that are under our purview that we could highlight.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was even thinking, I'm glad that you said that, because I was also thinking that maybe we could also have a section of the letter just mentioning the audits and making a recommendation based off the audits, just to adopt those audits or something to that effect. And then having our specific recommendations that help drive NSA compliance and sustainability. So that's where I'm at with that. But any other thoughts or input on this? Has anyone worked on any recommendations or had any thoughts about recommendations that they thought would be helpful? What about you, IG? What do you think about this in terms of uh, just the NSA in general? Is there anything that jumps out at you that you think hinders compliance? Have you had a chance to look at the opioid MOU at any point?
I haven't had a chance to look at that, but I'll do so as soon as possible. I think overall that we're going in the right direction, um, and I don't have any necessarily strong issues on changes or anything like that.
Okay. In terms of, thank you for that. And then in terms of the GPS tracking, I was kind of trying to work on where that would apply to either one of these supervisory span of control and unity of command sections or somewhere else. So if you think of anything, IG, as you think about the recommendations that we've talked about making, because that also does tie into supervision and accountability measures. Maybe there's somewhere else in here that you think that we could reference if we feel that we need to, because it covers a bunch of tasks here under it's like 23 through starts at 18. So um, yeah, so just something to think about while we're thinking about this. Director Lawson, do you have any input on this?
No, not this time, but I want to read it again because I haven't looked at it in a while.
Okay. Um,
A quick question, Farmer, could you send this to me, or I'm not sure where to find this?
yeah, I'm gonna send this. I'll send this back out. I'll send the old versus new template document back out, and I'll send a link to the proposed template to everybody. And then, Micah, I'm going to send you a link to this NSA table in Excel to send out to the rest of the commissioners, like we talked about at the last meeting. Does that work for you, Micah?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All right. I was hoping to update it more before we sent it out, but we can just send it out and update it as we go along. So I started to look at all the different quarterly monitor statements. I went all the way back to the beginning and just wanted to review again the different tasks that are being discussed. And I wish there was more information on a lot of the tasks, maybe around like half of the tasks, because if you go through like every quarterly statement that's been provided since we've had a compliance director, they only discuss like maybe half, maybe under half of the task, because a lot of these other previous tasks, at least what I've read, that they were like really, checking the box tasks. They were really easy to get into compliance. But I don't know for certain because there's no report written about it. So that's why I also think it's really important for us to become really familiar with the NSA, because ultimately the police commission, whoever's on the police commission, is going to be going over these things. Their inspector general is going to be going over these different tasks. So the more that we ingrain this into our process through the template or opioid MOU recommendations or whatever the case may be, I think the better for everybody. Yeah, but that's where I'm at. Is there any questions from anyone here? Do we have anyone from the public, Micah?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and send out these documents, and then everyone can start to think about this. I don't know if a draft letter is going to be ready by the second meeting in April, but I think for sure by the first meeting in May, we can have a draft opioid MOU letter. And the thing about the recommendations is that While the current contract expires in June 30th, technically they don't have to have a new contract finalized by that date. And starting within the past week or two, all of the city unions, there's like six of them, are basically in negotiations for a new contract. And that typically is around, I mean, it depends on the contract, but like a 3 to 5 month process. So they don't necessarily have to finalize it by then. So if we get recommendations in, and sometime in, early to mid May, or even by our second meeting in May, um, it doesn't mean that those things still can't be considered, but I think the earlier the better, obviously. And I don't think we need to have too much. I think we just need to go over what we have and pick the best things and keep it, short and concise, maybe like a page or two. And that's it. That's where I'm thinking of going with this. So, any thoughts on that? Okay. All right. Well, that's where we're at with that. And then obviously
You
after
you saying any thoughts on sorry, I was trying to on the MOU posting?
on the recommendation letter, yeah.
Um, I have thoughts, but I don't have thoughts about what you said. I have thoughts about if it even matters. But I've already said that. But I might be what's the word I'm looking for today? Um, I don't know if the word starts with a D. I can't think of the word, but that's just a spin. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do what we're supposed to do, but I think the way things are, it just sets us up for whatever. No comment, I guess.
All right. Well, okay.
Well,
Well, I
and
hear
and
you.
and to that point, I think the easiest low hanging fruit is this overtime issue. That's what the public cares about. It's been an embarrassing issue that OPD has not been able to rectify. And the union laughs in the city's face. They bankrupt in the city with this overtime stuff, right? And I think if we look at it through that lens and we present certain things that we're seeing, whether it be GPS, whether it be officers on leave that are affecting, operational force, whether it be, so on and so forth, and how it all kind of goes, whether it be OPD following their own policy around overtime that's not being followed, whether it be OPD following some of the recommendations that their own city auditors have made to help save overtime. I mean, I think that in the white paper that I remember seeing, there was like about 13 million that if they just followed their own policies, they'd be able to save, And so those are the things that I think it could serve at least as an educational piece for the public and for the community on things that we're seeing and how it pertains to this issue that everybody cares about. And if that's the least that we do, and without, again, getting into all the minutia or all the granular issues of this MOU, because it's a huge MOU, it's a labor negotiations. There's so much else that goes into it. For us, we're just saying, look, there's some basic stuff that's in our face that we see all the time that can impact, and guess what? We're not the only ones saying that. Other unions are saying that. The auditors are saying it. So I think we should just kind of keep it as simple as that as well, too. It could be simple and powerful statement from our positionality.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it serves as an educational thing to the community. It shows us following through on doing what we said we're going to do with the community. And it shows us in alignment with what the city auditors recommended, what different people from the community have recommended. And, we'll put our best foot forward and see what we can do. And then after that's done, we need to discuss exactly what we want to put in the CMC statement. And I think what we can start with is just discussing the things that we're doing, like the template, the MOU recommendations, all those things and how they relate to the NSA and constitutional policing, getting into compliance and staying in compliance. And what other pressing issues do people feel that we need to discuss in terms of CMC statement? Does anyone have anything at the front of their mind about that? Since we have a little bit of time left. I mean, because that's what I'm thinking. We can start with just talking about what we're talking about, and maybe I need to put a little bit more thought into exactly what we want to put on paper, but just show how the work that we're doing and how that supports getting into compliance and staying in compliance. Because it kind of like builds trust between us and the court to show that we're potentially ready for more responsibility if that's
Yeah.
what's needed.
Well, and I think when we get to that part of the conversation, there's definitely going to be some things from CPRA that we want to highlight in regards to just consistency of discipline and just those procedures and the progress we're making in that end. I mean, they've been doing their part in helping OPD in general in terms of like the timelines, right, and completing those reports. And then also, we're probably going to have to talk about at some point some of the progress that we're going to, hopefully by then be making on the IG's end on auditing some of these tasks and working with the city and the auditor in terms of like, basically it's like a passing of the torch, right? We want to be able to at some point get in a place where it's just localized oversight at home and IG's doing his thing and auditing these tasks, and between CPRA and the IG ultimately carrying out the functions of what the monitor is doing too. So the last, and just to remind folks, at the last meeting, the judge seemed pretty interested in asking the city about a transition plan, and I think we're demonstrating what a transition plan would look like and helping them think through what that transition would look like to localized civilian oversight. And I see Director has his hand up as well too.
Yeah, and then before you go, Director Lawson, on that point, I had asked Micah to get the transcript from the last CMC. I believe she just emailed that out. So maybe we even want to like reference stuff like that if we see it in the transcript. Director Lawson, then Micah.
Chair covered most of what I was going to say. I was just going to say, basically repeat that we need to start make sure we prime the court for considering what role we'll play in the sustainability phase, so that he'll consider before he makes those decisions that is already on his agenda with the role that the commission will play in IG and CIPRA when he starts addressing what's going to be sustainability period after, because we're going to reach compliance soon, I think. And so we need to start planning ahead of what role we'll play.
Yeah. Micah?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Tony, and that's what I was going to say. However, I want us to make sure that when we're positioning, we really think strategically about how we say we're going to do that, because we're about to have quite a few commissioners, on either coming back or not in October. Right.
Yeah,
and that's the elephant in the room. And right now we have a really strong group, right? You guys are ready to take it on, but a whole new group of new commissioners, how soon would they be willing to take it on? And we just need to consider that when we're saying, hey, we're ready to take this on, what that might look like, what that transition is. I just kind of wanted to flag that.
Yeah, you potentially have up to 5 new commissioners. So see what happens with that.
I mean, we still want it, but I know you guys are strong. You guys can handle it. But we're like, okay, give it to us, and it's like, okay.
We chart that path, and then that's our leverage when it comes to reappointments and continuity, and we make those folks make those decisions, and the cards are going to land where they land. Before we wrap this up, I don't want to take up too much more time, but this is a public meeting, public recording. I'm sure people are going to watch this, and this is my first time publicly to be able to tell you, Commissioner Farmer, thank you for your work. Thank you for everything you're doing. There's a lot of hard work that's being done, a lot of curious questions, and lots of times people conflate that into us overstepping our boundaries or directing staff or all kinds of bull crap and things that get directed your way. And I just wanted to be the first to say in this public setting, the first time I get a chance to, that there's been recent articles, recent public accusations that I think are full of BS. and we got your back, and we're really proud of the work that all of our commissioners are doing, especially you, my man. And I conflate to a lot of the things that I've been reading lately as to when they were telling NBA players just to shut up and dribble. And we're not going to just shut up and dribble. We're going to keep on doing what we do. We're going to keep asking questions. We're going to keep working hard. And if we're not pissing people off, then we're not doing a good job. So I just want to just let you know that, my man, publicly, and more to come on Thursday. But I know there's probably people that go back and watch these recordings. So hopefully they hear this message loud and clear as well, too.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. All
One
right.
more thing for Zervan. Zervan, Chair mentioned a white paper on overtime. That's something that we saw when we were listening to what is the name of the group, Ricardo?
I have a link to it, Micah. I'll send it out with the emails from CPA.
Perfect. CPA. I was just letting him know that I forwarded to him and Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one other thing really quick about the CMC statement. I really would like to capture just the things that we started to discuss tonight about that, and maybe create like a little outline about stuff that we want to discuss, as Chair pointed out, from CPRA's end and from the IG's end. Zervon and Tony, can you guys get together and put together like a little outline of what the both of you would like to discuss? That'll help us kind of get started on this, and maybe have that ready by like next week sometime. Is that realistic?
Yeah, I can do it on our CPRA.
Okay. It didn't have to be too much, just like a page or two of, outline. IG, can you do that as well?
I believe so, but let's just for clarity, tell me again what we're trying to do for
Whatever
me.
you want to include in the CMC statement.
Okay, got you. Yep.
Yeah, high level bullet points. And I think, even aside from the official document that's going to the CMC statement, they're always good for me to have. So every time I meet with the city, I could always just say the same talking points over and over again. We're continuing to work on X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. You get our CMC statement, you're going to see we're a little bit more further expanding on what that X, Y, and Z are. But it's the same stuff that we feel is important on each of our arms and our three-headed, approach, right, to oversight, and to keep on, repeating those talking points for the city and for the public.
And then the last thing I wanted to say was to Shawana's point, like, speaking to whether or not any of this matters. I feel like we discussed that in pretty good detail, but another area where we can use potentially some of these recommendations that we make in this opioid MOU is to apply some of those ideas to our annual input to the mayor's budget. So more on that later, so that maybe we could use some of that work as information for that letter whenever we get back to that, because the budget is up as well at the end of June. So I'm not sure exactly when we want to get back to providing input on that, but maybe some of that information helps us develop that if we have the time and space to do that. So, all right, with that, thank you everyone for being here. It's a great discussion. The NSA Ad Hoc meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.